Great, Ray, do you want to start?
Yeah, so what should we do? So should we introduce ourselves first and give the audience? Yeah, so let me introduce myself. I'm Raymond Fu. I'm the professor at Northeastern in artificial intelligence. So I have been in the field for 20 years. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So I commercialize many of my research from the lab at Northeastern to the real world, to the business. And recently, I'm actually starting a new business called A Innovation Labs, and this company is focusing on lightweight AI algorithms that can run on edge devices. So those technology can benefit the remote rehabilitation and digital health and those kind of applications. I will pass to Owen to introduce yourself.
Great. Well, Raymond, good to talk to you again, and good to meet everyone. I'm Owen McCarthy. I'm the co-founder and president of MedRhythms, and we build digital therapeutics, so evidence-based software products that treat disease, focused on improving walking following neurologic injury or disease. And company launched at a Spalding Rehab in Boston, though I now live in the great state of Maine, and we're building the company here. You know, our first product is focused on improving walking following with people with chronic stroke. We have the FDA breakthrough designation. We're close to wrapping up a pivotal trial, but we also have assets in multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, acute stroke, FND, where we have studies ongoing with Mass MGH, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, kind of, you know, a good group of hospitals. And in addition to MedRhythms, I've working on chairing the reimbursement working group for the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. So this new industry that's thinking about treating people with software and how do we get it reimbursed and paid for in a scalable and repeatable way. So look forward to meeting all you and talking about how digital health is changing physical medicine and rehabilitation or augmenting it. So what's the best way to maybe go through everyone? Do you want me to, maybe I'll just call on you and then you can go from there. Probably Eugene, do you want to go first?
Sure, thanks. My name is Gene Tunick. I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Innovation at Bouvet at Northeastern, and I'm a professor in the Physical Therapy, Movement, and Rehab Sciences Department. I'm a neuroscientist and a physical therapy. I run a federally funded research lab looking at neural control of movement and recovery after stroke and other similar disease.
Maybe Rupal next.
Sure, I'm Rupal Patel. I'm a professor at Northeastern University in communication sciences and disorders, as well as computer science. My main interest is in speech as a movement, and I'm very interested in how speech changes with neurological disorders, also how speech changes throughout development, and how some of that, there's a parallel between when neurological disorder kind of comes to its final stages, so that we sort of the last bits of control. So I'm really interested in seeing how we can build tools that can leverage whatever's left over in that individual to augment their capabilities.
Maybe JR next.
Yeah, I'm JR Rodriguez, and I am with, I'm a vice president with Geisel Software. We're a custom software engineering office in Worcester, Mass. And we specialize in artificial intelligence and machine learning for robotics and medical equipment. We just won our second prime contract from NASA for the development of software for swarming space robots to run on the moon, Mars, and asteroids. But we do an awful lot of medical equipment as well.
Hey, Robert next.
Yeah, Owen, nice to see you. I'm the CEO, managing director of MassNex. We work across academia, industry, government, and philanthropy to help companies succeed in the United States. We're working with all leading ecosystems in Asia and Europe, across medtech, digital health, and novel therapeutics.
And then Anthony.
Hey everyone, I'm Anthony, and I'm the data scientist and founder of Ageless AI. I think we have a number of synergies in this room, especially from what Raymond was saying. We also leverage quite a bit of computer vision at the edge, employed at the edge, for areas in terms of clinical biomarkers for Parkinson's, for example. We have certain modules for tracking the severity of it, as well as a number of other remote patient modules for right now an emphasis on Parkinson's, but we also are beginning to look at stroke, for example, stroke rehabilitation. And actually I was part of a research group at Donner Lab at UC Berkeley 2 years ago. And that was a physician-led translational medicine research effort for stroke applications. And some of the team are biomedical engineers from the university, but I'm just going to wrap things up. And I dropped a little link in the chat if you're curious to see what some of these demonstrations are and modules. Feel free to check it out. It's like a 2 or 3 minute video. Thank you.
All right, how about Chung-An?
Hello, everyone. I go by Joe. I'm Junan Chao from the Northeastern College of Engineering, Industrial Engineering program. My research is focused on the development of the decision support system for different kinds of healthcare problem. Now, currently, my research project include the data collection, analytics, and the modeling for the stroke behavior after during their recovery process. So that's one of my major research direction now. So I'm happy to hear more from you. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Joe. And now we're gonna go Mark, Michael, Mike, Alexis, just to keep it going.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Solik. I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Research Innovation at Northeastern. And our team primarily handles patent protection and licensing, but we work very closely in support of our spinouts like Raymond's A Innovation. And so definitely excited to be joining today. Thank you.
Hey, Michael Arnold Magis. Starting my second career, just started teaching at Northeastern about 2 years ago. I'm in the design program, and before I did design in the commercial world, software, usability focused, strategic focused software design, and interested in how evidence can inform design and how software can be facilitative, especially with behavior change. So I'm working on a project right now with a collaborator of mine looking at onboarding to CPAP therapy.
Great. Hello, everybody. Mike from Burnalong. I'm co-founder, co-CEO of Burnalong. We're a digital health and wellness platform with over 10,000 classes and 1,000 different instructors across 50 different categories or so. And we focus on leveraging AI and machine learning to help drive choice and selection. And we have obviously a lot of options for people, and we're quite effective at driving, I guess, medically, as it's termed, adherence. We like to just call it engagement, and that's our focus. Thanks for hosting.
Great, thank you. And it looks like Alexis jumped off, so we're good to go. Maybe to start out, Raymond, I'm going to ask you this question. It's a little off our script, but how do you think? And then anyone else can jump in here. Where are you most excited about AI and physical rehabilitation, and what kind of applications do you think are sort of most transformative?
Yeah, sure. So I can definitely talk about it. Anyone else want to join? Feel free to join us. So I've been in the AI for a long time, and start with some face recognition, human identification, and many applications focusing on defense security. And then things have been changing in the last 5 years. AI has been significantly advanced. So people introduce those deep learning models, artificial intelligence for deep neural networks. So those kind of techniques really change the world, especially in the industry. I think people have been thinking about how to, convert traditional large model into some smaller models. So nowadays, like I mentioned, as Anthony also mentioned, there are a big trend that people try to convert some AI model for human motion capture, human pose analysis to the edge. So that's actually a big trend. There are so many companies, they introduce those kind of technologies, such as Peloton, Mera, and those kind of technology. And also some telemedicine companies also start looking into those fields. I think most exciting trend for me is that customers actually, they want to own their data. So privacy is a big issue in the digital health and especially remote service. After pandemic, this has been strengthened because people need a remote service and remote interaction with a therapist. So I think AI has been becoming more promising than before, especially the tool, the platform we can provide to the end customers. Anthony, do you think you could also talk about this, topic and based on your experience and your startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So my affiliation or how I started really goes back to 2019. And it's exactly what you mentioned. There are a couple of human posed models out there, open source. And I was actually judging a machine learning healthcare hackathon at Stanford. It was called Health Plus Plus, right before COVID in 2019. And met a number of bright student groups, and this one student group, who demoed out the potentials of this, especially quantifying the range of motion, I found fascinating. So I pretty much plugged myself into a translational medicine research group at Donner Lab, and we kept iterating and building on this model. And to your point, there is a number of companies out there, and I'm very fascinated and seeing where this all goes, because it's building on a few, recent strong trends and phenomena, right? So when you look at the machine side, the hardware has really accelerated to optimally perform some of these analytics and computer vision models in real time. So plus the open source has also taken, has just gone off. So a lot of these methods to what you're saying, the edge detection, the running on the edge, we're in that phase right now where, even if you take a look at that link that I sent out, it's using a number of these modules. And again, it's really the marriage of powerful hardware and powerful software. So it's amazing because the accessibility now just really opens things up, especially, really globally. And in terms of something that we're looking at, we have advisors in the United Kingdom. We're also looking at, parts of the world where people don't have access to information and technology at their fingertips. And I'll just share this one story briefly of how we've been closely working with this one community director in recent months in Kampala, Uganda. And because of the lack of neurologists out there and lack of understanding, quite frankly, when it comes to Parkinson's, and people may see these unusual body movements and all these sorts, and they're quick to classify and say, this person has gone under voodoo or black magic or might be possessed by a devil. It's crazy, and it's really sad that some of these people are stigmatized and even ostracized. People don't go around certain individuals because they think evil spirit will latch onto them because they're not familiar with Parkinson's. So even something that we're doing right now is setting up internet for the next year, deploying, have access to some of our technologies, but I think it's a really unique time.
Yeah, agreed. And it's interesting because if you think about, if you rewind maybe 18 months ago, and the application, if you on the application side of like products and companies in rehabilitation, digital health, everyone was really asking like, well, when are you going to get to scale? Like there's a bunch of science projects out there, or there's a bunch of things that are like small in nature, and like in the pandemic, a number of companies, you think about like a Hinge Health, which has like a sensor on the knee that's measuring your rehabilitation in real time and has a PT sort of virtually beamed in. Like they're doing hundreds of millions of revenue after the last 18 months, and they're at scale. And then Kaya Health's another company that's, using AI, they're using AI technology to, just the camera and the phone to deliver what Hinge Health was doing. But one of the things that it has highlighted, which is similar to what Anthony was talking about, and it's talked a lot about because of COVID and telemedicine, is even in the US, health inequities, right? Like, it's like, if people don't have access to broadband and they don't have access, they may have to go into clinics and they may not have access to these things. But technologies that take all the that, like you were talking about, the edge AI that takes the computing, puts it to the edge, doesn't require the need for as strong of internet connection, lowers those inequities, even in the US and our different communities. So I think there's the two things there are we're getting to scale. So like really interesting things are starting to happen. And like newer technologies, like you're talking about, enable us to reach more people once we uncover those problems. All right. Anyone have anything else related to this topic? Yeah.
I can share a project that we've been working on with the VA for a number of years. There is a robot called Jibo that you've heard of Jibo, the social robot. We're working on a research project with the VA on the Jibo robot in conjunction with NTT. They now own Jibo. Okay. And we're developing one for a veteran to take home and be a companion in the management of chronic pain. And that involves AI and machine learning in terms of visual recognition and parsing natural language, that kind of thing. So that's actually something that's under research. It's not fully out yet, but we're hopeful that this type of thing grows with the Jibo robot.
Maybe Gene, do you have things that you're excited about coming out in the field, given that you're sort of on the leading edge of research here?
Well, I think that one of the other aspects where AI can have a profound impact is allowing us to be a bit better at prescriptive rehab programs, to tailor them to individuals and individual progress. So how I progress through a recovery stage is very different from you, Owen, and very different from you, Raymond, and so forth. So I think that the AI algorithms, I'm not sure that they're there yet, but by using sort of a human in the loop, real-time analysis of my progress can be a powerful combination with a clinician to be able to progress me through the recovery. Or when I have, remissions or degradations in performance, the algorithm can also advise how a clinician might be able to pivot or take it a notch down. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I think the computational efforts can be really profound, have a profound impact in, is being predictive of unexpected events, so that you can prevent falls, tripping hazards. You can detect weakness, for example, in muscles that might have significant consequences, like muscles in my ankle joint being too weak to, pull my foot up to step over a curb, for example. That might be a tripping hazard, things like that. Identify tripping hazards in the home that I might notice or my caregiver might not notice, like rugs and so forth. So I think these really are significant areas where AI can make a big dent.
Yeah, I totally agree. And basically, when I commercialize some of the technology that we developed through the AI perspective, and we try to find an application domain. So recently we have been focusing on those digital health, remote rehabilitation applications, but eventually we have to partner with hospitals. So Owen actually is in the frontier of those domains. I see a lot of good news about your company. That partnership with local research institution, medical institution. any insight regarding the regulations and how to build a partnership with those local institutions?
Yeah, it's a good question, Raymond. I think as it relates to regulation, I'll take that piece and then I'll talk about the partnership. I think, we're an interesting time where in the last 5 years, it's really been to the place where software has been thought of as like what they call the mechanism of action for treating people with serious healthcare conditions. And when you start to do that with a product, obviously like the FDA shows up, and that you need to think about, how that might impact your development plan. And the FDA is really a marketing language. So it really depends on like what your product claims it can do, and then is it safe and is it effective for that group? And we have chosen at MedRhythms to go that route, and we want to make claims about overall products and go through the FDA processes, because chronic stroke is a serious medical condition, and often insurers will only pay for things that are like prescription and approved by the FDA. And we don't want to put the bearing on the patient that they have to pay for things out of pocket. So that kind of all lines up. But there is some like some challenges to overcome. Like, when you think about, we right now aren't in our algorithms using AI, and we're not using it, but not because like we couldn't like employ it in a way to make like interventions better. We use music, the stimuli and sensors to measure, and there's a closed feedback loop that drives someone towards a goal. We could add an AI, but the FDA doesn't know what to do with that oftentimes. And so like a locked algorithm that does a certain thing at a certain time is much better for them. And so like you do run into problems there. And then to your second part of your question, Raymond, it ties into our choice of going this evidence-based route means that we need to study the product a lot with the top folks prior to launching it. And we've taken a very collaborative approach where we built a platform that could be reapplied across a number of conditions. And we inspire, PIs and others that want to study it. And we've co-submitted grants with them. They've funded some projects themselves, and we've funded it along the way. If it's exciting in their research area, we've found that like oftentimes like you can get buy-in from the PIs, and then the institutions, they can go figure out how to get it done within the institution. So that's been our approach there.
Oh, and can I ask a quick question, kind of parlaying on that with regards to the FDA? This is really the space that underlying everything I do, because I'm working primarily with patient advocacy organizations. Of course, they have direct access to the FDA, especially if they are a rare condition. They can be quite vital.
Yeah.
And so I ask, how are you working with them? Because there's often the presumption that we're prescribing something or pushing something at them, but rather it tends to work better when you work collaboratively with the community that you serve, and so that they're actually pulling it in the direction. For patients and families, innovation is hope, right?
No, it's a good point. I mean, actually, and it's also like, unlike a pharmaceutical, like people actually need to use the products to get the benefit of. I mean, actually, they need to take the pill to get the benefit of it, but the experience is much different than having to do something for a certain amount of time every day. And so like we actually started with the patient when designing the product. Like we've had them, we have an IRB for a product lab where patients can test the product on an ongoing basis. And so we've done, thousands of sessions in that. We have a patient advisory board across the different conditions that we have, and we meet monthly, if not quarterly, with that. And then we at least in the New England, we know all the stroke support groups and start to get their voice in, because while it's been really helpful for design a product, but I think as we get to those next stages, as you mentioned, if anyone's else thinking about it, like having their voice in front of the FDA and other places, or insurers, right, as they're making decisions about things, are really helpful to like move things forward. So it's critical in this space, I think.
It's kind of like a shadow form of business development. To be able to know that what you're doing is actually fulfilling the need, and that they are, the KOLs, and it's kind of like lobbying whatever your innovation is, not just because it has a medical need and it will, it's also because you need to convince them and have that kind of emotional handshake, so that they actually, leading key opinion leaders, perhaps you want them to bring up MedRhythms, in conversation, right? And so if you're 10th on the list, or if you're stuck in it's a AI, it tends to be a very noisy space right now. So how do you kind of, the cream rises to the top. How do you get those people to lobby on your behalf, even within their peer groups? I think you're doing it quite well because you're starting with the actual patient groups. That's fantastic.
All right, it appears like we have 43 seconds left, according to the countdown timer here. Does anyone have like any burning last words that they would like to drop in? 33 seconds.
No, nice job, everyone. This is really a nice conversation. Owen, let's get back in touch too. I'm excited to hear what else is going on with Med Rhythms right
I would
now.
love to catch up.
Yeah.
I can maybe, in the couple of minutes left, give one more snippet of ways that my team is using AI in a non-rehab application, but that might be of interest to the folks in this room. Human-robot collaboration is obviously an emerging topic for a number of years now, and it's quite challenging. If you can imagine a simple task like me passing a cup of water to any one of you guys in person, the transition, the handover of the object would be very simple and smooth. We wouldn't spill the water. If I was to try to do this with a robot, it would be clunky and we'd probably spill the water all over the robot. And so we're working with colleagues at Northeastern who are roboticists and modelers to study how humans pass objects back and forth to each other so seamlessly, and how we can use biometric data, eye positioning data, kinematic data, computer vision data about the about the human's movement, about the object properties and so forth, to teach the robot to infer what the human is about to do, and in a predictive manner, go and meet them at the location of the handover and take the object or give the object. So it's a bi-directional relationship. So here, just like you would infer my intentions by looking at my eyes and my subtle movements, we're teaching the robot to do the same thing. And so, you know, the applications there might extend to rehab or other domains. All right. Well, thank you, guys. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll see you guys in the other room.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.